Hello everybody and welcome on this new tutorial, and I would like to show you how to make a blended joint rig for a character with an artwork created in Photoshop. So first of all, make sure that you named all your layers properly. This is really important and you'll just be more productive if you maintain your projects organized. So now we need to import our Photoshop file in After Effects. Let's import it as a composition and choose Retain Layer Sizes. Let's click OK, and now I have my composition with my artwork and I can find all the layers here. I'm gonna select my composition, go in the View panel and click on Clear Guides. So I just have my artwork here. I created here a Duik workspace where I have my composition here and access to all of the layers here. First, I want to go in the composition settings and let's make some room around it. I'm just gonna create a new solid with the color of my background and name it background here. Click on OK. I'm gonna place that just behind and I can delete those extra layers I have here. Same for this one, and I want to keep only the layers of my character. I'm gonna create a null object, link all of my layers to this null and move it down here. The reason why I do this is just to allow me to have my character jump in an animation. Now I'm gonna delete this null object, and for this example we're going to rig the arm. For that, I'm going to use Duik, and this is by far one of the strongest tools to have in your toolset for character animation. You can honestly do everything with a good knowledge of Duik, and it's entirely free and open source. So if you really enjoy it and start to use it on a regular basis, I highly encourage you to check their website and consider supporting them. If you just installed Duik, please make sure you click on that little tool here at the bottom and select the standard mode here for the user interface. The standard mode will give you access to most of the settings you need. So the way Duik works is that you can connect a structure to your artwork. You can connect layers or create bones to control puppet pins, for example, and a very common way to rig with an artwork is to rig with jointed layers. In that case, each part is a separated solid and will simply rotate around each other. Now I will go on the rigging panel, and in the Structure tab, the first option enables you to create the structure of the whole human body. For this tutorial, I only want to create an arm structure. For each parts of the body in Duik, you can go here on this little circle and have additional options. So here we have the human arm by default, which is made of an arm, forearm, and a hand. You can add a shoulder as well if you want in your structure, or you can create one with claws. The reason is because Duik separates structures in 3 groups. The first group is for plantigrades, the humans, primates, bears, and rabbits. So if your character is a bear, you will want to add claws on your structure. Here you have digitigrades, such as dogs, cats, dinosaurs, walking birds, and here you have ungulates, such as horses, cattle, giraffes, pigs, etc. So this is an advanced setting if you are animating something that is not human. for our example, we will just stick to the standard options for an arm structure. Duik placed an arm structure. So you can see the additional layers here with the arm, the forearm, the hand, and the arm tip here. From there, you can select your structure and start to position it on your artwork. I'm going to keep my background, and now I want to isolate my left arm artworks and my structure. We'll move it on the side just for now. And what I want to do is change the blending mode to multiply, so I can see here the joints of my artwork. So I'm gonna go and place the arm and the arm tip somewhere around here. So let me switch this back to normal, and now we have the structure perfectly aligned with the artwork. So from there, what I can do is link the arm to the structure layer, the forearm to its structure, and the hand to its structure as well. And now I can select the structure layers, go to the links and constraints, and click on the auto rig function. Now I have an extra layer, which is my controller. And if I disable for now the structure and I move my controller, I have an IK rig of my arm, which is great. But now when I want to extend it, you can see that each of my layers are separated from each other. I cannot extend my artwork because we only have solid layers. So what you can do here is disable the auto stretch. So when I'm moving my controller around and I maintain the look of my artwork. So another way to rig would be to have one artwork, one layer with all my artwork. So I can do a pre-comp here and start to place puppet pins on my layer. Now I can rename each puppet pin according to the artwork. So here is the shoulder, here is the elbow, here is the wrist, here is the tip of the arm. Duik works best when you set your puppet tool on legacy. So you can change here the puppet engine to legacy under the effect, and that's how you will get the best results with Duik. You may want to extend the number of triangles. If you go over your artwork, you can see there is a kind of a mesh that will basically change the resolution of your deformation of your artwork. So the more triangles you have, the more high definition deformations you will have, more precise. So yeah, I will go here to the maximum. Now with my pins selected, I can create bones just by clicking here and add bones. So now I can just parent those bones to my structure here. I will parent the shoulder bone to the arm structure, the elbow to the forearm, the wrist to the hand, and the arm tip to the arm tip. So if I select my structure and rig it again, now I'm gonna deactivate those layers. I'm gonna do the same with the bones, so I just see the artwork and my controller. I'm just gonna change the size of the controller, make it smaller here and maybe offset it. and I will remove draw guides. So if I select my controller and move it, I have a bendy look and I can stretch my artwork. So that's another way to rig your artworks coming from Photoshop, but I personally don't always like how it turns out with the joints. Now what you can do is use the Puppet Starch pin tool and try to create a more rigid body. So you see what happens here is that you can add more stiffness to your mesh, and that's why I like to have a high number of triangles, so I can have a more precise control of the stiffness on this mesh. I'm gonna add another starch pin tool here, change the extent, and I just want it to reach just on the limit here of that part. And I'm gonna add the last one here on the hand. Just place it near the tip and increase the extent. Just like that. So what happens now when I select my controller is that I have much more stiffness to it, and then I can still extend my artwork. But I'm not very happy personally with the look of the joints. See, here you can get some artifacts, and I think there is a much better way, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. So let's start from scratch and just come back to my artwork with my 3 separated layers. I'm going to switch the blending mode to multiply again, just so I can see where my layers intersect. And now I'm going to use the puppet pin tool again. Instead of having all my arm in one layer, I'm going to keep my separated layers and place the puppet pins on each of the layers. So for my arm, I'm basically going to create a pin for the shoulder, somewhere around here. I'm going to create another pin here for the elbow. I'm going to set this on Legacy Engine, extend the amount of triangles, and now under the Deform menu, I'm going to rename my pins. So this one here is going to be my shoulder, and I'm going to name it L_shoulder, just to know that it comes from the left arm. Here, left elbow, and I'm gonna add here the left arm elbow, because I'm gonna have another pin for the elbow on the other layer. And now I need to be very precise and make sure I create the other pin in the exact same position. So I just hit Ctrl R to have my rulers and get the guides. So now with my forearm layer selected, I'm going to place another pin here in the exact same place for my elbow, and another pin here for the wrist. So I set it again on Legacy, increase triangles amount, and rename it as well. So because this pin is on another layer, I'm gonna name it L for left and forearm, because it's on the forearm layer, and elbow. So when I will create my bones, I will be able to recognize which bone is linked to which layer with the naming convention. This is really important. Now I'm gonna go here and do the same for the wrist. Rename this one L for left arm. Forearm, because it's the forearm layer, and wrist. Or I could rename it hand as well. Now for my hand layer, I want to do the animation with controller on the opacities with a different artwork. Here I have another drawing of the hand when the character is holding her bag, and we'll get to that later. But in the case you had puppet pins on your hand as well, you would want to name the pins with the proper naming convention. So now that I have my pins on my layers, I'm gonna go back to a normal blending mode, and with my pin selected in my layer, I'm gonna click on Add Bones, and Duik is gonna create bones that are linked to the pins of my layer, right? So I'm going to do the same for the forearm layer here. Click on Add Bones, and I have those new bones controlling the pins of my layer. All you have to do now is to link those bones to this structure. So in that case, this shoulder bone is going to be linked to the arm structure. Okay, now I'm going to select the two bones of the elbow that make the joint between my two layers and link them to the forearm structure layer. All right, we can see that my two layers are now connected. Now I'm going to take the bone for the hand and the layer of the hand itself and link it to the hand structure. Once I've linked all those bones and layers to my structure, I'm going to select the structure layers again and click on the auto rig, and once again I'm going to change the display of my control layer here, make the icon a little smaller. I'm going to deactivate the structure layers. I'm going to deactivate my bones as well. So all I have left is my controller and my artwork. So now when I'm moving my artwork around, I have a perfect joint, just like in my first example when I was only rigging each separate layers to the structure. And now I also have the ability to stretch my artwork. So now let's do a basic controller to change the shape of our hand. We need to align the hand layer here with the rig. So I'm gonna take this second drawing. Oh. Gonna zoom in here, move it around here. Just deactivate the controller for now. Hit W to rotate the layer. Align it here. Now I'm gonna link this layer to the hand structure layer here. Alright. And with my controller layer selected, I'm gonna go in the effect menu here, go in the expression controls and create a slider control. Now I want to do a right click and edit the value, and I want the slider to go from 1 to 2 because I have 2 drawings here in my example. It can be any value based on the number of artworks you want to control this way. From there, I'm gonna open the options of the connector tool here in my links and constraints with my effect selected. In the composition, I'm gonna click on the property selection. And now I have a value selected with a minimum value of 0 and a maximum value of 100. What I want is a minimum value of 1 and a maximum value of 2 to match the values of my slider. Now I'm gonna select first the default drawing of my hand and then the second drawing and click on Connect to Opacities. So what happens now is that Duik links the opacity of my layers to my slider. I'm gonna rename the slider control to Hand Animation. So from 0 to 1, I have this drawing here. If I select the value 2, I have this other shape. I'm gonna lock those layers here so I don't move them accidentally. So here we go, we have a perfect rig of the arm on this artwork. And I can place my hand this way on the bag. And now I can start to animate my character and change the shape of its hand with this simple animation. A quick side note here on the workflow when you're doing character animation. So what you can do is with a controller selected, go back to the links and constraint panel, and here you have the 0 tool. And what happens is that with your layer selected, when you click on the 0 tool, it will place its position neutral value back to 0. So now I can move around my layer. I want to go back to neutral position, I just have to 0 it down. I also recommend as well, once you have your whole character rigged, to keep it in an After Effects project, just one After Effects project per rig, and save it in a folder. So you create a new project for your animation, and you will simply import your After Effects rig project in your animation project. After Effects will create a folder with the content of the rig project, and always keep a project per rig and import it each time you need a new instance of your character to animate. This way you can directly start to edit your animation without facing expression problems that may occur when you try to duplicate your rig comp directly inside a project. Alright, so I hope this helps, and please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more tutorials dedicated to rigging with Duik Basso.